Hi everyone, it's Dr. Janine Wendt again here giving you some tips on how to create an interactive, multifaceted lesson for One Health for Kids. We're going to give you some practical skills now of how you bring all this information that you've been given together. So let me walk you through a sample lesson plan with all the essential components for a successful lesson. First of all, we want to decide who our lesson is going to be created for. In this case, I am looking at the upper primary grade level. So I'm looking at creating a lesson for students aged about 10 years old. The subject that they're going to be learning is obviously One Health for Kids. It's the after school program. And then the lesson topic that we want to focus on is the water cycle. As you know, water is essential to all things in life, people, plants, animals, and it's an essential part of our environment. So why not do a lesson that's fun and interactive about the water cycle? So why exactly are we teaching students about the water cycle? Well, that's what goes under our learning objectives section of the lesson plan. We want them to understand the water cycle. We want them to know this because it's a precursor to having a bigger conversation about the climate and specifically the climate change crisis that we're facing today. We want them to understand that water is an essential part of life for people, plants, and animals, and it's a key component of our environment, as I had mentioned earlier. So that's what you want to think about when you're writing a learning objective. Why are we doing this? Why exactly are we teaching this particular lesson? The next thing you need to think about is what materials you might need to do the lesson. I found a really cool video online on YouTube about the water cycle, and I thought that that would make a great intro to this particular lesson topic, and it could also provide the students with some of that hands-on kinesthetic learning, as well as some audio and visual learning opportunities. So looking at what I need, I know that we need to have some sort of water cycle diagram or a handout to be able to provide to the students. Now, this is something that we could maybe just use a marker and put it on a whiteboard if you have that in the classroom available to you. Or what you might want to do is consider having chalk and doing it on a chalkboard or putting up a PowerPoint slide. That way you're doing something for the visual learners in the room. It's probably a good idea to try to find an audio of a water cycle song so that we're playing to the auditory learners, so we're playing to their strengths as well. And then in terms of kinesthetic learners, we want to actually do a hands-on activity. And like I said, I found a YouTube video that was great that actually meets the needs of the auditory and the visual learners, and it provides an activity for those kinesthetic learners so that they can actually get some hands-on experience. And the materials required for that activity include Ziploc bags, water, tape, markers, and if it is available to you, some food coloring, water-based food coloring, not like paints, just food coloring. If that's not something that's easy to access where you live, then we definitely could do it without. It might also be beneficial to have some sort of a handout where somebody could actually read or write on it their notes. It's not necessary, but that's another thought. So in terms of materials needed, we need a diagram, something that folks can write on, something they can write with, ideally like a Sharpie pen or some sort of magic marker, an audio of some sort of song or something that folks can listen to with regards to the water cycle, and then a video projector, a screen if you have one, and access to the internet for a YouTube video link that I'm going to insert into my lesson plan. We also need Ziploc bags, enough that every child can have one. Or if there's like 200 kids and you only have 50 Ziploc bags, that's okay. They can work together to design their Ziploc bag. We need water, and you could just bring those in buckets. Doesn't have to be purified filtered water, but it should be clear. It shouldn't be muddy or anything like that. Tape is a good idea if you have it, and like I said before, markers and potentially some food dye. Now, in terms of the hook or the intro, which if you look at the template of the lesson plan that I gave you that I downloaded from Canva, the hook is a good idea. It's a way to bring students in, get them excited about what it is that you want them to learn. So we could start with a quick story or a question, pose an exciting question for the students. In this case, I'm going to say, have you ever wondered where rain comes from or where it goes after it hits the ground? And then maybe show them this video of the water cycle. It's engaging and it's visual. Then the next section of your template says lesson structure. So what we want to start with is kind of a mini lecture. So we're going to use visuals and that labeled diagram to explain each stage of the water cycle: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. This will stimulate the needs of those auditory and visual learners. Next, we can have a discussion with the students. Let them describe where they've seen rain or puddles and maybe how long it took them to disappear. Again, this plays to the needs of the auditory and the visual learners, because the auditory learners will listen to others talk, and the visual learners will also be watching intently, not just at the lecturer at the front of the classroom, but at their peers. The hands-on experiment is the next activity that you want to talk about. Each student makes a mini water cycle in a Ziploc bag, and then they get to tape it to a window. Now, if the classroom where you're doing this doesn't have a window, you could certainly bring things outdoors and maybe tape it to a sign outside the school, or maybe put it under a tree. There are different ways that you can safely attach a Ziploc bag to an outside, tree branch or something without damaging the tree. And I think whenever we're talking about One Health, we have to always think through, well, gosh, if I'm putting, plastic tape around a tree branch, we need to make sure the students know that that's not okay to keep it there forever. We need to make sure that they know, for the safety of the plant, we're just going to do this for the exercise. We're going to thank the tree, and then we're going to take the tape down, and we're going to take the Ziploc bags down when we're done using them. Then it's a good idea after doing the activity to maybe play a short and catchy song for the group, or maybe even play it while they're doing the activity, again, to play to the auditory and to the kinesthetic learners. And then in terms of providing them with some independence, we could have students complete a story about what they did, or we can have them actually talk about what they did. What did you see happen when you first created this bag, this Ziploc bag? What happened after a period of time? They can come back to it in a week, and maybe a week later is when we take all the Ziploc bags down, depending on where they're actually posted, of course. And they can talk through what it is that they saw, and how that was or was not a great demonstration of what happens in our environment. So in closing, it's important to circle back and talk about what we did, and to have the teacher make sure that you're evaluating or assessing what the students have actually learned, either by doing that activity of having them talk about it, or by actually going back to the original materials and saying, this is the water cycle, asking them if they have any questions. You could certainly even wrap up with a quiz game, like, I'm going to name this step in the cycle, you name the next one, and the kids can just shout it out. Or they could stand up when they know the answer, or something where they're physically using their bodies to engage in that activity. In the end, it's just key when you're planning any kind of a lesson to try to play to the strengths of the learners in the room, and also to make sure that you're doing things that are age appropriate. So you got to think about, when we're talking about upper primary, the kids aren't little kids anymore. They actually have the ability to learn maybe some more advanced concepts than like a 5 or 6 year old, but they're not quite as sophisticated as our secondary students may be. The language that you're using while they're learning is going to be a lot simpler than it would be when you're talking to that, soon to be graduate of a secondary school education. So whether you're teaching the water cycle, or about just One Health in general, or if you're talking about zoonotic disease, or if you're talking about airborne disease or hand washing, whatever the topic is that you're choosing to impart to our students, one size doesn't fit all. So always try to plan a lesson that meets the kids where they are, age appropriate material, engaging all the 3 different learning styles that I shared with you, and then making sure that you have fun in the process. Because if you have fun and you love the material you're teaching, I can almost guarantee you the kids are going to love it too. So thank you so much for tuning in and for paying attention to this lesson on how to write a lesson plan. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time.